there. Oh, here's the video.
No, it's on.
Oh, it is?
It's on.
Yeah, it is.
Wait a
Are
minute.
they on? They're not on here yet.
No, but there he is.
There he is.
Hi. Can you see us?
Can't hear us.
Can't hear us.
Where's the computer audio?
Wait a minute.
Hey, I can hear you, but mute your
I'm
mic.
talking to you when you can't hear him. Unmute your Carl. Carl is muted.
Carl's muted. You're muted. Oh,
He knows
okay.
you're muted.
Can you hear us?
You can.
Cheers. Okay, gotta get up in my chair.
Where is us?
What do you mean, where's us? We're up in the corner.
Oh,
We can't hear anything.
did you say use computer?
Switch to active speaker. No. It seems like everybody's muted. Maybe everybody's muted on purpose. What's he saying? Mute your mic and stop talking.
Good evening, everyone. I suspect Faye is on mute at this point. It's okay. I see Carl Foote, Dennis Lamke. We'll wait for the troops to gather here. Let's see what we have. I'm looking for my compadres, Roger and Alan. Let's hope they join.
Al's on.
Hi, Danielle.
Hello.
Alan is on?
Yep, he just came on.
Okay, because I don't see him on the list here.
He's labeled Unipay.
That's his new name?
I guess so.
Unipay. Hold on.
Let me see if I can call Roger.
Yeah, I see him now. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Neil.
We have a nice gathering this evening.
Is Roger with us yet?
Danielle is looking for him. No, I don't see him on the
I don't see him either.
join list.
Neil,
Yes,
do you have the disclaimer from the governor?
I have it on the agenda.
Okay, good. I can't print that, so
I can read it.
I tried copying it, but I ran out of time.
No, I'll read it if you like.
All right, very good. Is that Roger?
I still don't see him on the join. There's Roger. Hold on.
I see his face, but he's muted.
All right. Well, that's a start. That's a good start. There he is. Okay. Roger, you're muted. He just disappeared.
Click on this. You got it. You
He's
got
got it.
Okay. It being a minute or two after 6, as the chairman, I'd like to open this meeting. But first, I would like to have Neil read the disclaimer from the governor of Massachusetts for me, please.
Happy to do it. An executive order from the governor of Massachusetts relieves public bodies from the requirement in the open meeting law that meetings be conducted in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provision to ensure public access to the deliberations through telephone, internet, or satellite-enabled audio or video conferencing, or any other technology that enables the public to clearly follow the proceedings of the public body in real time. In addition, all members of a public body may participate in a meeting remotely. The open meeting law's requirement that a quorum of the body and the chair be physically present at the meeting location is suspended. All other provisions of the open meeting law, such as the requirements regarding posting notice of meetings and creating and maintaining accurate meeting minutes, as well as the limited enumerated purposes for holding an executive session, remain in effect. I'm getting better at that. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I believe the first item on our agenda is this Chapter 61A issue with a landowner that's going to sell their property.
Yes, that's correct.
Let's have some information on that. I'm not sure if these people even have a farm of any sort, or I'm not sure exactly what the details are with this property.
Danielle, I should disclose that I'm an abutter and an adjoining landowner. I own the property immediately across the street from 552 East Road. Is there anyone from the firm of Martin and Oliveira with us tonight to discuss the application?
I don't think there is. But the original letter I sent you out, Al, they had originally said Chapter 61A. It's actually Chapter 61B, which is recreation. So it's not farm, but they want to take it out completely.
Is this a property that's being sold, or they're just opting out of the program?
It is a property that's being sold. It's 14 acres. There's about 4.5 acres that surround the house, which are regular. And then the other 10 acres is what is in Chapter 61B.
So this is before us just because it's required to give us the first right of refusal?
That is correct.
Does the town have any interest in this property that you're aware of?
I don't believe so. I know Neil was originally had mentioned it to the land trust, but I'm not sure if they actually formed an opinion on that.
I discussed this with John Mason, who actually is also an abutter and an adjoining landowner. John is on the, with Land Trust. He discussed it with Chris McGee, who is the chairman of the Land Trust. And we were advised by email, a copy of which I recall sending to Danielle, that the Land Trust does not have an interest in the property. I guess in the past, and this is my first exposure to 61A and B, in the past, the town has asked the Land Trust in applications of this type whether it had an interest in acquiring the property. And on occasion, apparently they have, but in this particular case, they do not. The acres that are in, I am told the acres that are in the 61B are landlocked, and they exist behind the house to the west side of the house. I do have two questions, and neither goes to the issue of whether we should exercise our right of first refusal. My first question is, the right of first refusal was offered to us for the entire property at the purchase price, which I believe is $550,000. However, the 61B parcel is valued at a considerably lower number. So my question is whether our right of first refusal, I'm not here suggesting that we exercise it. I'm just questioning whether our right should be attached to the parcel that's in 61B and not to the entire property which is being sold.
That is correct. So your right of first refusal would be the market value assessment of the 10 acres, which is $95,993.
All right, that was not the initial proposal.
That was not the initial letter that they had sent. They have redone the letter to actually make it accurate. They also accidentally said chapter 61A when it was 61B.
All right, just that. The other item that I note on the assessor's classification, which was issued in 2008, they have circled 61A, not 61B.
The original application they did, yes, but the box is chapter 61B and the rest of it references chapter 61B.
All right, so whatever the issues are, we have before us the opportunity to exercise the town's right of first refusal on the parcel, 10 acres with a market value of $95,993. That is basically lawn area located behind the house. I walked over the other day just to take a look at it. I don't see any point in going ahead with it, but I'm open, you know, is there any other discussion from the selectmen?
I don't, we're not in the business of acquiring properties in general. This comes before us just because it gives us that opportunity to say yay or nay. I move that we decline our right of, or exercise our right of refusal.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hanson, aye.
So you don't want to purchase it, correct?
That's correct.
We do not wish to purchase it.
Just one more question before we move on. Are back taxes owed on the parcel at this point?
It is. Mary was working on calculating it for me, but I didn't get in touch with her before she left today, so I don't know that amount, but the owners do.
When you say back taxes due, yes, the back taxes are due. if that property has been in this chapter for more than 10 years, and let's assume that it has been, then they owe back taxes for the last 10. And they're forgiven any years prior to that. That's the way it works to get out of the program.
That's correct.
So when you say back taxes due, they weren't due until they opt out of the program. Then they become due.
Basically, the chapters give you a tax break for being in the chapter, like farm or recreation or even woodland timber. And what that does is it gives the landowner a break from paying regular real estate taxes as opposed to the chapter taxes, which are less. So when you come due to sell that property, you decide to remove yourself from the chapter, you must pay that what is owed, that which you had owed the town that you avoided paying the taxes on. In other words, the difference between what you would have paid and what you are now going to pay to finish off the chapter.
And that's not at a there's no interest or penalty. It's just the taxes that you
avoided.
Well, I think that concludes our discussion on this point. Is anything else, Danielle?
Not on that, nope.
So which agency assures that the back taxes are paid? Is that the town assessor, or is it the town hall?
The assessors are working with the attorneys for the closure. And then she's also has notified Paul of the back tax payments.
Okay, so we have no further supervision on this issue.
correct.
Okay,
Done.
moving right along.
Neil or
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
just a quick question. I understand from John that land trust doesn't want it, and I understand why. I'm in agreement with that. But is there any chance that that land could be offered to Mass Wildlife? I think they are abutters down below that. Or is that not an optional?
They do not have the option to exercise a Chapter 61 tax difference. They could purchase the property, I suppose, if they wanted to and utilize it for their property. But as far as using the town's Chapter 61A, no, they have no access through that.
No, I didn't mean that, Al. I mean, if they could, just go ahead and buy it for the 95,000 or whatever.
Well, I don't have much interest in that because that would severely erode the seller's revenue generation if we were to do that. And again, I'm in a butter, and I know Doug Cowan, and I probably should recuse myself from this conversation, but I don't think that would be fair to the seller.
Yeah, just a
It's
question.
not, it's not an option. We can't take it and then give it to somebody else. We'd have to take it for our own use. And the Mass Audubon can't
Understand.
purchase just the 61B. They'd have to buy the whole lot for
Isn't
$550,000.
the right of first refusal assignable to any qualified entity?
No. It's just to the town. The town is the one that would have received the taxes. They did not receive the taxes because of the chapter. Now that they're going out of it, we will receive the tax difference that was missing for the 10 years or whatever length of time they've been in it. 10 years is the most, I believe.
I have to clarify that the law allows the selectmen to assign the right to a nonprofit. It's just that hasn't been done in this moment.
It's moot since you voted, but you could have assigned it to any qualified entity.
Yep, you can assign that right, and then they would have the right to exercise your right of purchase for future reference.
I don't have an interest in doing that. I don't know about the other selectmen.
Oh, that's good information for me. I did not know that it could be passed on, the right of first refusal. I'm educated.
Can we move on, Mr. Chairman?
I think we're on item 2.
Okay, item 2, I believe, is the Balderdash application. Let's have some comment on that. Neil, Roger, Danielle?
Well, let me comment on it first, because way back when Balderdash originally appeared before the town, I was the chair of the select board at the time, and we held several public hearings, which were exceptionally well attended. And as a result of those hearings, issued the original farm function permit, which was applicable for a period of time subject to annual reviews. We conducted our annual review of this past season, and we're continuing to do that. And as a result of what has happened during this summer season, we have proposed or drafted a proposed new farm function permit going forward for the next year, the next season, next summer. A draft of that proposed permit has been prepared, and that's what we are reviewing this evening. And I presume that we are going to get public comment on both this past season's Balderdash activity, and we can respond at this meeting. My thought is that after the select board reviews the draft of the proposed new permit, that we defer any decision until our next meeting and give the public and the owner, Christian Hansen, the opportunity to review the draft that has been prepared and post comments or send comments. And then at our next session on December 16th, we would take action on the permit. I worked with Danielle and Town Council Beth Goodman in preparing the draft for our review and for discussion this evening. But we know that Balderdash has generated a fair amount of comment from our residents. And before we approve a new permit, I think it's appropriate and for us to allow the draft of the permit to be viewed by the public and to get comments on it.
Could I just interrupt you for 1 second?
You're not interrupting because I'm finished.
Okay. So this is an actual public hearing for the amendment of the special permit. So you actually have to officially open the hearing for the special permit amendment.
All right.
And then I think the next would be to allow the Hansons to present their application.
What their amendment is, yes.
Was this advertised in Eagle?
Yes,
Okay.
and went to the abutters, yep.
Okay. So why don't we read that, which was published and open the meeting?
Just bear with me on trying to pull it up for you, okay?
Okay.
Can you see it? Okay.
Very well.
Yeah, it's good.
And the dates below are the dates that it was in the paper.
You want me to read that?
Yeah, so you can open the hearing, officially open the hearing, then you can read this and say that it was posted on those dates.
I will open the hearing and this has been posted. And I will read the notice. Notice of public hearing, special permit. The selectmen will conduct a public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 4.8B, 16, and 6.3 of the Richmond zoning bylaw on a petition to amend the special permit for Prima Donna LLC / Christian Hansen owner, originally granted in July 2019 by changing existing language to allow events to be held in the barn located at 81 State Road, Lot 2, Assessors Map 403, Block 0001, Lot 1000.0. The hearing will be held remotely at 6 p.m. Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. Login information can be found at richmondmass.org. Al Hansen, Chairman.
And Al, the dates that is published?
November 18th, 2020 and November 25th, 2020, published in the Berkshire Eagle.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor of opening the meeting, accepting the motion?
Wilson, aye.
Hanson, aye.
Manzolini, aye.
I guess we'll need to see the actual form of the letter now, I guess, of the new bylaw. Was that simply the whole of it right there, Danielle, or is there more?
No, so that's what was advertised in the paper for the hearing.
Okay.
What Christian's amendment, and we'll let Christian present it, his amendment is to allow farm function events to be held inside of the barn, because right now it doesn't allow that. Just for clarification purposes, is the original special permit was granted for the lot parcel for 81. The new one also includes 79, and it says the prior used to be lot 81. So we're going to amend that language so that it includes both of them afterwards. But Christian can go ahead and say what his application is for.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Selectmen and Danielle. All we're trying to do here is actually we're trying to do two things. Number one, we're trying to be respectful of the neighborhood and the community, and also our business, and try to make sure we can put the two in harmony. So right, we have had weddings on site, for example, and those have been on the property in tents, and they have generated a fair amount of noise. And honestly, going forward, that's not going to really be a viable option for us. So what we'd like to do is to renovate the barn that we have on our property. Some of the barn is dated back to the 1700s, so it's kind of historic, I would say. And we'd like to move all the events in there or into the winery. So our goal is to cease doing outdoor noisy tented events in the evening outside and move them into the barn or the winery, depending upon what the occasion may call for those two reasons. So I think this is a win-win for all of us. Certainly it's not an inexpensive option for us to proceed with, but I think it accomplishes both minimizing noise for farm functions and also to preserve a very historic building in the town.
I'm in full support of including the barn.
As am I.
I think it's a very good idea. Yes, Hanson, aye.
Now, what we've done though is we're actually combining two separate events here. One is Christian's application to allow for events in a reconstructed barn. And the second is to conclude either at this meeting, but I'm suggesting that we defer any conclusion until our next meeting, the review of the original farm function permit that was issued, I believe it was early last year, because we have an annual review provision in that original permit, and issue a single revised permit going forward, which includes modifications to the original farm function permit and what will be, I think, an acceptance of Mr. Hansen's proposal to allow for functions in the barn and in the winery. So that's really what we're looking to do, to try to address all of the concerns relating to Balderdash and go forward with a set of new, I wouldn't call them requirements, but a set of new principles included in the permit going forward.
And I guess I'm a little unclear, and I guess we'll have to just see what's been drafted, but the farm function activity is completely separate from the ongoing normal course of business activity, or are we combining things? Or maybe we just need to see what has been drafted, I guess.
We're going to make that available. Yes, we're basically combining.
Neil, do you want me to speak to that? Because
Yes,
that is,
please.
has been an issue of interpretation.
Yeah.
So in further review of your farm function permit, and this was the first the town had issued, we looked at the definition of farm events, and we respectfully disagree that the only things that apply to this special permit are the large events. We believe that all of the activity that you're conducting in a business manner on this property is subject to the farm function special permit. So you'll see that if you have any outdoor wine tasting with audible music, there are proposed conditions based on the noise report, and which I think are within your consent, that you've acknowledged that you're willing to address, Christian. And maybe you want to hear in this hearing what the draft condition, and we can verbally, it's not a secret. We can discuss what we pulled from the noise report that we would impose as conditions on all functions on the property. Does that make sense?
No.
Yeah. So if you look at the definition, and it's spelled out in the draft permit too, and we were asked to examine this issue. If you look at the definition of what is a farm function event, it includes, but it's not limited to, public wine tastings held indoors or outdoors and private events. And if
I don't think that's written in the farm function definition in the Richmond Town bylaws anywhere. There's no mention of wine tasting in the farm function definition.
No, but in the permit, it is specific, and in the definition, it is sufficient to interpret that it will include those.
Should we
I
read?
know, you'll have to take a look at it. You can look at our draft permit, and you can look at the definition in the general bylaw, and you can see that that definition applies. But the conditions of specific reference to the outdoor amplification are drawn directly from the noise report. And I don't know if you want to go into those, Neil, right now, or?
Well, the proposed new permit runs about 4 pages, and it incorporates some of the language that was in the original permit issued last year. There are a couple of paragraphs that relate to events and to limitations on noise, some of which have already been discussed with Mr. Hanson, just in general terms. My thinking is that we make this draft available on our website or to copies to people who request it, and that we discuss it tonight, but prepare to vote on it, keep the public hearing open, and resolve issues and come to a decision at our next meeting on December 16th. It's a complicated situation. We have members of, we have residents who are quite unhappy with the situation from last summer. And we have other residents who see Balderdash as an important asset for the town and the community. So my thought is, rather than try to make a decision this evening, we open the discussion and we agree to resolve it or attempt to resolve it at our next meeting and give the public the opportunity to see what it is that we have under consideration.
Do you want to discuss some of the key points that we put in there tonight?
I'm happy to do that if the other board members.
Yes, I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
It's a good timing. Yes, let's discuss that.
Is that correct? We just nullify our farm function permit and continue operating under our section 138 19H permit and be done with it?
That's the option that we are considering at this moment is a new permit that encompasses both your application to reconstruct the barn and hold events there, which candidly, I don't think any of the board members would fail to approve that. But we also find it necessary to address some of the issues that still remain from this past summer's activity. And we want to address those and discuss them as they relate to the next season.
Well, we could just cancel the farm function permit and operate under our current wine tasting permit.
If you had no amplified exterior sound. But before you do that, I think there was a lot of consideration given by Neil to the balancing, as he's discussed, between the neighborhood and, as you mentioned, between the neighborhood and your business. And you can look at these terms, but it was essentially setting up the acoustical curtain. And I think you agreed to 3 musicians at a time. But this permit also would incorporate, if you do renovate the barn, allowing the selectmen to look at the renovations. And then it says that you're going to be permitted under this permit to have barn function events in the barn too. So, I mean, yeah, you can take a look at it. I don't know why it would be more onerous than what you have now. And the zoning bylaw, I believe the use of the farm for a farm function is very broadly defined, and it does include the wine tasting if you use amplified music. And, I think we've learned a lot from the permit. We were concerned about traffic, and traffic really doesn't seem to be an issue. You've accommodated that. You have good parking. There's a lot of things that we learned that was useful, and noise is an issue. So that's what this permit is trying to address.
I think there's a fundamental legal issue here because the farm function permit, based on the definition of farm function, has nothing to do with our current activity, our by right activity. And it's actually overlapping. As you know, you can't have 2 permits for the same activity.
I don't understand why you say it's by right.
Because our section 138 19H permit allows people to be on site doing wine tasting. So saying the farm function allows that as well, it's overlapping.
Let me do this. there are basically, while there are 10 paragraphs in the proposed new permit, only two, I think, represent a different approach to Balderdash's activities than has already been provided for in the permit that we issued last year. And I think we have people in attendance who probably are curious, and I'm sure, Christian, you are as well, as to what we are considering. And I'd like to take a short period of time just to read that language and again, the proposed permit, I'm suggesting, be available for public review for 2 weeks, and then we'll attempt to resolve all the issues at our next meeting.
Okay.
Is that okay with any objections from our attendants, our audience here at this point? All right, so let me just read basically paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 and 3. 1 provides that farm events shall be defined as any and all events held at the property in the normal course of business. Farm events shall include, but not be limited to, public wine tastings held indoors and outdoors with amplified music, and private events such as weddings, birthday celebrations, fundraisers, etc. All farm events may be held inside the tasting room or inside the barn on the property after reconstruction, see paragraph 10, and in the outside existing amphitheater on the property. Farm events are permitted Monday through Sunday during the hours of 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Paragraph 2 provides no more than 100 people shall be permitted on the property for any given farm event. For any event with more than 100 people, the applicant shall be required to obtain a 1-day special event permit from the Board of Selectmen under the Town of Richmond General Bylaws, Chapter 10, Section 9. Paragraph 3. Exterior amplified music shall not be louder than 89 decibels as measured no more than 3 feet in front of the speakers and amplifier of the amplified music. I'd note parenthetically, much of this language is from the professional sound engineer's report. When any exterior amplified music is played, a 180-degree acoustical curtain system, KNC 100B QQ, in compliance with the recommendation of the Noise Engineering Report dated September 25, 2020, shall be installed directly behind the amplified music. The acoustical curtain system shall be continuous with no gaps and extend beyond the location of any speakers or amplifiers. All speakers and amplifiers shall face west, away from Richmond Pond and away from the neighboring residential property, and shall only be placed directly in front of the acoustical curtain system. No more than 3 musicians may perform exterior amplified music at any given time. Drums, bass guitars, electric guitars, and horns shall not be permitted to be played on the property at any time. No exterior amplified music is permitted after 7 p.m. The applicant shall provide each patron with a written request to refrain from shouting, yelling, hooting, or whistling while on the property. Clapping is permitted. I'm just looking down the other paragraphs. The permit shall have a duration of 1 year, subject to annual review. And then paragraph 10 provides that the barn is reconstructed and meets appropriate fire safety and health codes, the amended special permit will allow the applicant to hold farm function permits inside the reconstructed barn. I apologize that there may be other language here that the residents and Mr. Hanson may want to comment on. I don't mean to read the entire permit, but in my view, those are the critical items in the permit that probably will warrant and indeed require public discussion and comments from Mr. Hanson. And our intent, at least my intent in helping to draft this with our town council and in proposing it to my fellow selectmen, is to find common ground and a way for Balderdash to continue and prosper, and to also address the concerns of some of our residents who have been quite vocal in their comments about noise emanating from Balderdash that is disturbing to them. So we're looking to carve ground that will be acceptable to both our residents and to Mr. Hanson.
I would like to say for the public discussion, to keep things under control, I would ask that you raise your hand to be recognized and you will be opened, and not to let your conversation go more than 2 or 3 minutes at the most, please. Are we open for public discussion at this point?
As far as I'm concerned, we are. We certainly have quite a few people in attendance. We have 35 participants. This is
So if you want to speak, if you can put like your hand raise under the reactions, and then I can call on you. And then that way we can have one person speak at a time.
Very good. Someone named Evelyn Loeb. It's probably her computer.
Yes, it's Miles Garfinkel, resident of Richmond Shores. Thank you. The residents of Richmond Shores who are affected frequently by the noise, the word noise has been used by all parties and nuisance by some. We appreciate the Sound of Selectmen reviewing the permit, and we will look at it in the next few weeks and give our comments. Hopefully, this review or change in the permit will alleviate the impact on our community. And we thank you for taking the effort to take the time to review it all. And hopefully we'll have a quiet summer next summer and beyond.
Thank you.
We have iPad 7, Faye Lessner, who has their hand raised. Oh, hold on, you have to unmute.
Sorry, this is Mark
There you
Lester, Faye's husband, and we live on Branch Farm, and we have, of course, we're further down the lake than at Richmond Shores, and we have heard hardly any music in the summertime. But I would like to read that that report before I really make an intelligent comment on it. So I'm going to defer and wait to get a chance to read that before we comment further. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Lester.
Yeah.
Were you there all summer, or were you gone part of the summer?
No, we were there the whole summer. Yeah.
And for the most part, you didn't hear any disturbing noise?
Not at all.
Not at all.
We were on our dock most of the time, about that time, and we barely heard any noise at all.
Okay. one of the things that I want to address is Christian sort of touched on it, and that's the combining of this special farm function and his by right from chapter 138. I think we have to be a little careful how we deal with that. The people who are complaining about the noise and the problem that we're trying to solve is all activity at the Balderdash. But there are, the way the law is structured, there's certain things that are permitted in 138, and the special farm function is a different set of circumstances. The thing that's on the table before us tonight is just including the barn in this special function farm permit. And I think we can act on just that piece, to include the barn. But the rest of this, I think, really pertains more towards his normal course of business and noise suppression. I think they should be handled separately from a legal viewpoint, from the 138 by right and from the farm function event. I think they're different entities, but from the business viewpoint or from the neighborhood's complaint viewpoint, it's one and the same. I think trying to combine them in a document can be problematic. And I think we should try to avoid that.
Well,
Okay.
there was a permit review pending and now an application to amend the permit. Right, Christian, you moved to amend the permit.
But the
Right.
permit that he's amending is the special farm function permit.
Correct, and that's what we revised. That's the proposed decision that would be distributed for comment.
So has that been approved then, including the barn and the farm function permit?
Yeah, in the proposed decision, it is. Yeah.
So that decision is done.
No, it's a proposed decision
Oh,
for
that-
comment.
Nothing has changed tonight as a result of any discussion. Nothing's been approved or disapproved. It's only been discussion tonight. But all I'm saying is that what's before us tonight, I thought was just Christian's proposal to include the barn in the special farm permit.
That was my understanding as well.
And what we've introduced was comments to that amendment, which amends it further, but it kind of brings in some of the other by right types of activities. And I don't know how we deal with that. Elizabeth, you seem to have a handle on what we're doing is okay from a legal perspective.
I do, and I'm gonna, now that I understand Christian's comment that he has a by right use because of a winery license, we are going to take a further examination of that. But I'm looking right now at secondary sources regarding farmer winery licenses. And my understanding of those were that it's similar to another alcoholic beverage license, which would be, you know, the kind you get for on-premises service of alcohol beverages. This allows a farmer to serve alcohol that, you know, has certain conditions on the farm premises. I don't think it overrides zoning. I'm just saying that right out there. That was my understanding. I don't know why it would override zoning. I don't think it provides an exemption from zoning any more than you could say that if you got an alcoholic beverages license at a bar, that you could have the bar in the middle of a, you know, residential zone. I don't think it overrides zoning, but we will look at that issue very carefully and we will advise the town on whether my assumption was correct, that the special permit on your zoning bylaw can regulate these activities. That has been my understanding. And I understand that the first time the permit was issued, Christian, it was only regulating certain size activities like weddings and not everyday activities. And I thought that was because there was only a concern about the large size of certain of the activities that you were going to do, for example, because of traffic. But in further discussion with Neil, it was, we think that there was a misunderstanding of whether the law itself applies to regulate all of the activities that goes on the Balderdash Winery.
I would just say we were addressing that for the first time when we had our original hearings well over a year ago. And frankly, we have had a summer of events and experiences that has caused some distress to some of our residents. We've also seen Balderdash prosper or appear to prosper. I can appreciate that COVID had a negative impact. And I think many of us in the community, and we've received quite a good deal of support for Balderdash from residents in our community. And my effort working with Beth was to find a way going forward where we try to find common ground. We're not looking to shut Balderdash down. We're not looking to significantly curtail Mr. Hansen's opportunities to run his enterprise. And what happened was, in his application for permission to put events in his barn, which I don't believe there is any problem with in terms of any objections from the board, and I don't mean to speak for them, they can speak for themselves, or from the residents, that if it's more convenient to do this in two separate documents, we could easily do that. But I think we are prepared to certainly consider, and I would suggest allow events in the barn, which seems to address some of the noise mitigation concerns that we have. But at the same time, we can't ignore what has gone on this summer, and we're looking to address those issues and resolve them for next summer.
And I would just say there's a couple dozen people on the phone that do not have issues that live in the area. So we've heard from a select group, but we haven't heard from a vast majority of people. So I would hate population.
We have had significant support for you and for Balderdash, which has been expressed. We have letters, and I've received personal comments from quite a few people. So we're well aware that there's a division of opinion here, but we need to, that's why we're selectmen. We get paid huge salary to try to resolve these issues.
So we have,
I don't know how to use the chat. I don't know how to raise my hand. So
okay, you've got like 6 people ahead of you. So I'm trying to call on people who have them, but I will write your name
I
down.
haven't done it because I don't know how to.
There's a little button that says reactions on the lower portion.
Yeah, I don't have the option of raising.
Oh, you don't have the option. Okay.
I can clap.
Sometimes it's 3 dots and you have to push the 3 dots.
Clap
for
works
adoption.
fine. That works for me too.
clap.
So the next person I have is E.E. Winters.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we moved to 123 State Road, smack next to Balderdash on August 14th. And even though we knew they were there, we hadn't really focused in on what they were doing. And so we had the pleasure of having them as neighbors, and we could hear the music should we have, if we were on one side of the house, but it was always very soft, gentle, pleasant. I would always be surprised if I went out and drove by the parking lot and saw it full of cars, because I had no idea that there were any people over there. So from our perspective, right next door, the music, the sound was absolutely fine. And like I said, you know, we didn't really hear it unless we decided to go outside, and we then even couldn't hear it that clearly. So I have another question. In the whole proposal that you're going to post for everyone, will the actual engineer's noise evaluation be on that part of the documents that you're going to put up?
I'm not, I believe we have made that report available to anyone who requested it.
It's not on the website, but I can put it there.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen, I'd just be curious because, you know, 89 decibels, I'm not sure, is that loud? I'm not really sure. I don't think that's all that loud. So I'm just curious about that. And then, and my question actually for Christian, and the renovation of the barn, it's not the house you're talking about, but the barn. And do you have any plans put together that we'll all get to see, or? 'Cause I think that's a great idea. I mean,
Yeah, we don't have any plans put together yet, other than it will look almost identical to what's currently there.
Yeah.
The biggest thing we want to do is to not make it look like it's about to fall down.
Right.
And also put insulation around the barn and then another coat of wood around it so that it's further insulated from noise.
Right. Okay. And that, even though I live next door and I walk by it every single day when we go to take our walk, it's right. It's behind the house and sort of facing the other barn, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the red barn.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
But yeah.
So anyway, I welcome Balderdash being there. I think it's terrific. We don't even have a fence up or anything. And, you know, to me, it's all very pleasant. So thank you.
Next is Reynolds.
Unmute.
Okay, there we go. Hi, John and Valerie Reynolds here. We live at 42 Lake Road Extension, which is on the Whitewood property, and we live right on the lake, directly across from Balderdash. We've owned the property now 2 years, and we're year-round residents, so we have experienced 2 summers. We actually don't hear, we hear the music, but it's not in an obtrusive way. It's not bothersome. Frankly, when the Christian camp was functioning and having outdoor events, that was way louder. There was yelling, clapping, a lot of noise that it sounds like Christian's group isn't allowed to have. And so I was a little perplexed when this became a big deal for him, because didn't seem like that was regulated. We've also had a lot of noise from the Boys and Girls Club, with loudspeakers and family events and things, which is quite loud. Which, again, we thought this was part of living on the lake, sort of like the jet skis and the loud boats that we have to tolerate on a daily basis, which is far worse than anything that's ever happened at Balderdash. So that's why Val and I were just kind of perplexed that this was even an issue.
I mean, the jet skis are by far
The
the
worst.
most obnoxious noise complaint anyone could ever have. They're horrible.
So-
They're 10 times worse than
So-
this is.
So we just want to voice our support for allowing outdoor music. For us, it's not obtrusive, but if we are going to apply rules to one group on the lake, it doesn't seem right that they're not applied to other groups. So I hope if any inhibition of what he can do on his property is put in place, I hope the people buying the Christian camp are aware that the same should apply to them. And I know they're in Pittsfield, so it's different. But the Boys and Girls Club is the same way, the Boys Club. So anyhow, we just wanted to voice our support because we do not find it's a problem. So thank you.
Next is Leslie Breeding. Leslie, you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank
There you
you.
go.
Leslie Breeding here. I want to welcome some of the new people who have come to the discussions. Part of the issues with the sound and the noise pollution has to do with the directionality of sound waves. So that's why some people may hear it and some people may not. I have a couple of questions. I heard earlier that I'm sorry, one of the selectmen was talking about principles rather than requirements. And I'm hoping that the terms of the permit are going to be considered requirements rather than principles. And please have somebody clarify that comment. And also, it's going to take a while for I imagine the 2 indoor spaces to be completed. Plus, a couple of doctors have told me that it'll be 6 months before even people with underlying cases and over 65 will be able to get vaccines. So that means this entire coming summer is going to be non-indoor businesses for most people. So we're getting we're getting daily noise of amplified music, just sort of like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The day after Thanksgiving was particularly bad, and it should have been a peaceful day. What is going to be done, and if you can't answer these tonight, please think about it. What is going to be done in the interim? Thank you.
Do any selectmen want to speak to that before I call on the next person?
Well, with respect to the wording in the amendment, that's why it's going to be out for comment. So that would be the opportunity to make your comments there.
And as far as next summer is concerned, I don't know what Christian's timetable would be in terms of barn construction or reconstruction, nor do we know what the requirements will be with respect to gatherings next summer. So I don't think we can answer that. We can answer that part of your question, Leslie.
Okay. I'm just asking if you could address the fact that we're still getting noise. There isn't sort of like some sort of stopgap measure that can be put in place.
Well, the permit language that we're talking about contains some limitations, call them requirements, that would go into effect if we adopt the permit itself.
When and the permit would go into effect when?
Well, it would probably go into effect next season.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next is Susan Benner.
Hi, thank you. First of all, I think I've been on the select board several times, just as people have been on speaking on the other side. But to hear that only clapping is going to be allowed, I think I imagine Balderdash having this wonderful family event, which is what it does. And I see this summer as giving actually a safe respite in the COVID era for many, many people. And are we going to tell them, the small children, that they may not laugh and enjoy themselves, but they are only allowed to clap? I just think the clapping part is a little over the top. And some of these restrictions, I am afraid, are going to put Balderdash out of business. And if that happens, I am really concerned about the life on the pond. We already have to worry about Christian camp being sold and what is going to happen. Balderdash is an incredible neighbor. They give a lot of goodwill to Richmond. They are a community aware and give back to the community. And again, I live in Whitewood, and I do realize it is the noise is a directionality. But when I moved to Whitewood, there were no Airbnbs. I find the Airbnb that is in my neighborhood to be really, really obnoxious. But I'm sorry, they're allowed to do it. There were no jet skis on the pond. I find them very, very obnoxious. But we can't stop it. I've looked into it. And to a certain degree, we need to allow people within reason to make a living and to have businesses in Richmond that produce taxes and make a living. And again, one of the things you see about the Northeast and the Berkshires in particular is this NIMBY attitude, and everything is negative. And I really, really think it's a shame. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Okay, thank you. Next is Jonathan Ballin.
You're on, John.
John Ballin. I've been a homeowner for several years in Richmond, in Berkshire County since 1989. And I'm also a Williams College graduate, so I love the Berkshires. I love Richmond. We love kayaking on Richmond Pond. It's a beautiful place. To finish my quick bio sketch, I've been an attorney for 35 years in New York, but I'm not here as an attorney, but I do have a couple comments I'd like to make to try and help. And I greatly respect what you do as selectmen. I've been on the MTA board here in New York and chairman of a state agency, all for free, about 10,000 pro bono hours. And I know what it's like to work so hard and usually just get criticized. But and so I'm here though to support Balderdash. It's a great place to go with family and friends. It's classy, clean, well run, and the music's not excessively loud when you're there for sure. And I've been on the lake struggling to try and hear because I heard of the controversy. It's a fun place run by extremely nice, committed, community-oriented people. And it's a real credit to Richmond. And just, but I do have a mild comment on these procedures today. I know you mean well. I can see it, I can hear it, and I've read about it. But I think this, reading this complicated situation, that's a complicated document you read, even though short. But I think it's better to work out differences and negotiate in private without a quorum than to read something that contained, as the preceding person said so well and so eloquently, but what I'll butcher with legalese, seems like some conditions are quite arbitrary and capricious. I don't know where you got some of this, and I urge you as a taxpayer to please pull that back, go talk to Christian and Donna. Maybe they need counsel, maybe not. You can work it out as neighbors. But there's things in there, the 100-person limit. You say you don't want to drive them out of business, but I fear that that's the result of some of those conditions you put in. And the best way to negotiate is not in private, not on Zoom, but to sit down, neighbor to neighbor, and talk it out. So I would urge you, because it's really a bad precedent to really do things this way. Other than that, again, I do respect what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. I just think as you near the end of this process, putting in onerous conditions that will have, I fear, the real detrimental consequence is not the way to go. And finally, I would say that in this era of COVID, which hopefully will be gone by the summer, right? This Balderdash was just tremendous community resource for people to go escape and enjoy. And people might be a little sensitive. I get that. Everyone's on edge, and certainly we're this summer. But I hope you don't impose conditions that really destroy the heart of what is a wonderful place. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your input, Jonathan, and I think it's good advice.
Thank you.
Next is Dennis Lamke.
Yes. So can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So some of the things I want to say have actually already been said. Christian and Donna do a tremendous job. I've grown up in Richmond my whole life. I've been here for 4 years. And to see something like this, what they've done is just amazing. And just like some of the other people have said, some of the limitations that want to be put on them is a little bit crazy for, no hooting, no hollering. It's, in my opinion, it's clamping down a little bit too much on them. It would be a shame to see something like that be put out of business. As a business owner myself, it's very tough these days to run a business, never mind when people are rooting against. Another thing is I live on 37 Spruce Road down in Richmond Shores. So I probably live one of the closest to Balderdash. Even though I haven't lived here very long, I've probably lived here for the past few months. And the noise here, in my opinion, is not an issue whatsoever. Even though you do hear a very faint noise, like other people have said, the boats, the jet skis, the planes, mainly the dogs barking around here are the big issues. The music is not an issue, and Christian and Donna do an amazing job, and it would be a shame to see this go away because just a few people. That's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. We have a Cindy. Cindy, is your hand still raised? You still want to speak? Maybe.
Yes, hi.
Oh, there you go.
Just took me a minute to get to the button. Hi, it's Cindy Bartlett from Bartlett's Orchard. How are you guys tonight? I just wanted to say that as with being a business owner in Richmond myself, and knowing Christian and Donna, they have the community of Richmond in their heart. Since they have moved here, they have done a lot of things for the town of Richmond. And as a business owner, especially with what we're all going through right now, the more restrictions that we put on business, the harder it is for that business to thrive. And they strive to do things the right way, the best way that they possibly can. And I just think that the more restrictions we put on people who are trying to do business in Richmond, the harder it is to bring people into the community that may want to start a business. They pay a lot of tax money to the town, and I just feel that I respectfully ask the selectmen to, try to make it as easy for them as you possibly can. I think they're a great business. I walk my dogs down around the pond area all the time. I've never really heard much coming from that direction when I walk down to the boat ramp. And I understand the concerns for the people that are hearing some of the noise. But as a person who has gone to Balderdash, I've always found the music to be soft and easygoing. And I just want to put my support behind Donna and Christian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a Joe, I'm really sorry about your last name, Castelluccio, if you wanted to still talk.
I do. Thank you. I'm used to it, but you did
Okay.
a pretty good job with it. Hi, everyone. This is Joe Castelluccio. My wife, Jarrett, and my son, Nathaniel, live on Orchard Circle in Colonial Acres. Frankly, we echo a lot of what's been said already, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time and just point out a few additional things. First, we are big supporters of Balderdash for the simple reason that they're fantastic. Christian and Donna are amazing hosts. They are incredibly respectful of the community and the efforts that they've put into this process. Frankly, I think they would be justified in being a little frustrated, but the fact that they continue to want to work with this community, I think is great and something that should be considered. I also think that a lot of the mitigation aspects in the permits, the restrictions that have already been put in place, and then I've seen firsthand, I've seen Christian out there adjusting that bolster painstakingly to make sure that as little impact on the surrounding area is made as possible. To say that no one is saying, and I don't think anyone would disagree, that we're saying we should have massive gatherings with no restrictions, throughout the night, no matter what. There already are restrictions in place, and I think you have respectful business owners that, even absent a rule of law, would take into account their neighbors, and I think we can count on that. And the other thing, and with respect to everybody who may feel differently on this issue, it's clearly a minority of the views, and that's not to say that they shouldn't be considered, but I think they should be considered in due course and given due weight. And there shouldn't be a false equivalence between one or two relatively minor inconveniences versus the much bigger picture that many others have spoken more eloquently than I have tonight. And that's about it for me.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Allison, you're up.
Hi, I'm Allison Cole, 28 Spruce Road. I'm one of the people who has been consistently reporting noise issues, and let me just reassure everyone, we have always wanted Balderdash to succeed. We just don't want it to impact the way we use our properties. And the way the geography is, the sound from Balderdash comes straight to my backyard, and it feels like it's right there. It's changed the way I use my property and has made me quite unhappy. That said, I'm very pleased to hear that everyone is going to try a more active way to cooperate with each other so everyone ends up happier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Paul.
Hi, actually, after hearing Joe and Jonathan, I don't really have a whole lot to add. I am a huge supporter of Balderdash, and as the Bartlett business owner pointed out, I'm very concerned with the restrictions as drafted. While I understand the intent is to try and appease everybody, and I'm not questioning Allison or any others, I'm sure that they are feeling the impact, but what I hear being drafted is going to put them out of business realistically. And I think that that is something that needs to be carefully considered. And again, like Jonathan, having been a lawyer for a number of years, but not speaking in that capacity, I understand when, homeowners associations or other people, have complaints, it can have this weight behind them where all of a sudden unintended consequences actually happen. And I don't want to see one of those unintended consequences being that Balderdash gets driven out of business, which a lot of other people, have reiterated on this call as well. We all want the best for our neighbors. We all want the best for our neighborhood. And I just want to express my very strong support for Balderdash, because I know, when people are unhappy, you're going to hear from them all the time. And I don't think that you're hearing from all of the other people who really are great supporters as well. But in respect of everybody's time, I'll keep it to that.
Paul, I have one question. Where do you live?
On East Beach Road, directly actually across the lake. So I do hear it very faintly. I'm right on the lake. I do hear it very faintly. And usually when I hear it, you know, I join some of the other kayakers out there who try and get closer to get more direct sound so I can actually enjoy the concerts. But it was never anything obtrusive at all. And I was there all time. I actually have been there for about 6 months straight because of COVID.
Okay, you said East Beach Road?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think that I have gotten everybody who raised their hand to speak. Oh, Peter, sorry. Just have to unmute, Peter.
Yep.
There you go.
Just took me a while to get there. Peter Miller, 314 Shore Road. I'm probably as close as you can possibly get to Balderdash. And I think Dash would go out of business or just kind of go away. You know, we all wish them success in their endeavors. But when the vineyard became a carnival type of an atmosphere, and that's how I perceive it, because the noise that generates from that organization not only affects my outside living, but also affects my inside living. You can actually feel the music internally. So I think that a lot of people have taken a lot of time to look at this. And I'm glad that we have an opportunity to review the documents before they get voted on. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
Anybody else that I may have missed? Let's see. Oh, Alan Rosenblum, is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I live at 311 Shore Road about half the year now, and more so since I retired. I've been on the shore for about 30 years, and I had no plan of talking to you tonight. I wanted to see what the paper said, but I am a little disheartened by the fact that people saying, well, it's only the minority, so we got to take care of the majority. That's not what the community is about. And to all of you that hear it a little bit, that hear it faintly, I am one of those half dozen or 10 houses where I hear it all the time, and I don't have good hearing. And it's nice when you can get into your kayak, because I have a kayak, and go over and listen for 15 minutes, and then just paddle down the lake or go back to your house, and you're done. But to sit there on a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon in the fall when nobody's around, and to hear this music blaring, and then to go over there and see there's 6 people sitting outside, and then going back and having to endure that each and every Saturday, each and every Sunday. But then I'm only the minority, so you know, I'd like to see the papers. And by the way, I also wish Balderdash a lot of luck, by the way. I have numerous family members that come and visit me, and that's always a stop for them. They enjoy it. And I do want it to succeed. I think it was Miss Bennett that said within limits, and she's actually right. It should be within limits. And by the way, those of you that hear it and live at the other end, or actually a couple of 100 yards away, you won't hear it. I invite you to walk down to our little stretch on a weekend afternoon and hear that. It penetrates the walls. You can't escape from it. You can't have cookouts. You can't talk to your kids and grandkids. But then again, I'm only one of a minority. Thank you.
Kim? Kim, are you waving at me? Kim Lopez?
She's trying to find the
I
mute.
think she's unmute, yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. This is my first Zoom session. I'm sorry. I just want to say that the back, I don't know what you call it, pavilion thing was built so that Balderdash could raise money for Richmond Pond. They know and appreciate how much the people of Richmond love the pond, love the view. And for us who don't have that direct access to the pond like the Shores people do, our access to see it is from Balderdash. And to sit on a Saturday, Sunday, and just look at that unbelievable view with our neighbors and talk to Donna and Christian is just a godsend. And, you know, tonight at dinner, my daughter said to me, she's like, well, you know, why do you need to go on this Zoom call? Why do you need to talk to the selectmen? You know, people just talk to the selectmen when they have problems. And I said, you know, I really feel like, you know, the most important thing is to say positive things about what's going on in our community. And there's so many positive things. I mean, the things that, you know, go on at Richmond School and the things that Balderdash give to our community, the things that Cindy Bartlett does, setting up a food pantry during COVID, and being a business owner who lives in Richmond, but our business is in New York, which is 1 mile away, and having had no business since March, and now having nobody from Massachusetts allowed to go to New York. We have an indoor soccer facility, in Canaan, New York. Having nobody be able to experience that, it's very, very difficult. These are very difficult times. And I sent Neil and the selectmen all a letter the first day that Balderdash opened, and I said, it is so safe. It's a way for us to be separated and still be a part of our community and see our neighbors. And I mean, I remember our first town, I don't know, voting thing where we all sat in Richmond parking lot and beeped our horn to, you know, do the elections and stuff. It's a difficult time. And I just want everyone to know that Donna and Christian really do have everyone's best interest at heart and have just given so much money to support Richmond Pond. I understand it's noisy. I actually have been out there kayaking. I mean, I wouldn't say noisy. I totally agree with the Reynolds and with Sue Benner, who say there are so many other noises and that everybody has to be accountable for those noises. The Christian Camp Russell, they're all way noisier. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I've been out there kayaking all the time. There's noises. And frankly, in my neighborhood, I have to listen to AR-15s or whatever the semi-automatic rifles are. There's rifle noises, trains, planes. And you know what, I'm not going to complain because you know what? We all need to look at the positives of our community. And if people enjoy going out and shooting guns and hunting, you know what? That's their pleasure. We all have our different pleasures. I'm sorry that, you know, there are noises. I have noises I have to deal with and contend with, you know, that aren't necessarily what I want to deal with, but I do because it's something that other people enjoy doing. And I just want to say, I completely support Balderdash. I thank you so much for all the money that you raised for Richmond Pond so that we can continue to enjoy it. And I hope that, you know, the community support that we've all shared tonight, you feel, Christian and Donna, because we do really love you and enjoy every minute we get to spend with our neighbors and family and friends and dogs and having picnics and watching and looking at Richmond Pond from your location. So thank you. We really appreciate you. And thank you to the selectmen who do a marvelous job. And, you know, I told my daughter, I promise, you know, like I sent them a note saying, thanks for the work on 295. Thanks, you know, you're doing a great job. And, you know, we really have to look at the positives in our town and all the great things that everybody is doing, just to keep, you know, people healthy and happy in these tough times. So thanks, neighbors. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Kim. One word of correction. The town of Richmond had absolutely nothing to do with the work on Route 295.
Really?
That was the state.
Come on, Roger, I told you that there were the guardrails down and all that, and it's all fixed. Well, it's wonderful. So thank you.
Town of Richmond had nothing to do with it.
But keep those cards and letters coming. We appreciate
Okay,
it.
I will. You're doing a great job.
Dennis, did you raise your hand again on purpose? You're still muted.
Sorry about that. I'd like to reiterate a few things. If I would, I actually have a question for Peter. Did you really refer to Balderdash as a carnival? I mean, that's a little bit harsh, don't you think? I mean, I've been there many times. I don't ever remember seeing a Ferris wheel. If I did miss it, I'd really like to take a ride on it sometime. My
Dennis,
question.
let me head you off for a second. We'd like the comments directed to us.
Okay, well, that's
between,
what I would like to say is these people, I would like to ask the people that are clearly not for the place, if they've ever actually been there and gone and enjoyed the place on a weekend. I'm sure Christian and Donna would love for them to come up, enjoy a free drink, see what they're all about, rather than just not, you know, sitting down and kind of hating what they're doing without knowing what it's all about. Like I said, as far as referring it to as a carnival, that's pretty. So, you know, and as far as I'm sorry, it was the person right after Peter saying that sitting in their house and they can't talk, the noise is penetrating the walls, they can't even have a conversation. I know that that's not true because I live so close to Balderdash and the noise is not penetrating. You can clearly have conversation. It's not even, the only time I can even hear it is when I'm outside my house. He clearly has one of the last houses down here that is not insulated. So if he does need to get insulating guy, I know. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Christian, your hand was up. Do you not want to talk anymore?
I was actually just going to say a quick thank you. I know it's 7. Quick thank you to Selectmen and also to people that spoke on our behalf, like Kim, who just ended things, and Dennis and everybody else. So that was all I wanted to say. So I put my hand back down.
Well, I would like to say something. I appreciate everybody's comments. I especially appreciated Jonathan Ballin's comments, and I would like to take him up on his advice to have us sit down with you, Christian, and to try to draft up something that's agreeable.
I gotta step in there.
As long as it's only one of you or two of you at a time,
Yeah, you can't have a quorum. You
Right.
can't negotiate with Christian in private. You are subject to the open meeting law.
You could have one of you, myself, and Beth. That would not be subject to open meeting law.
Right. And also, I mean, I interpreted Mr. Ballin's comments to say that the neighbors should be talking to you directly and that you should be talking with the neighbors directly and not going through the town. That was my understanding.
Well, no, that's
Not what I meant.
Yeah, they have talked and what we're at a point where everybody recognizes and has skin in the game towards making Balderdash a quieter place. And what is the best way to accomplish that is the only thing that needs to be resolved. And nobody, I haven't heard anybody say anything about wanting Balderdash to disappear or go away. I've heard overwhelming support for Balderdash, even by the opponents. who do have a legitimate noise complaint. And addressing that noise complaint is really the biggest issue as to how we do that. And Christian has taken many steps, in my opinion, to mitigate noise, and he seems to continue to find ways to do that. It was he who suggested we move the music indoors. It was he who wanted to, do the events in the barn. He's done things turning the music down and limiting the number of musicians, and he's limited some of the times that they're playing, and he's acted responsibly, and I believe he will continue to act responsibly. And I don't want to have I agree that some restrictions are needed, but how formal they have to be and how restrictive they have to be, I think we can maybe back off on that, and I think we perhaps should back off on that somewhat.
What we've been talking about mostly is noise mitigation. No one has suggested that Balderdash needs to go away. We just want to agree on mitigation that would reduce some of the noise that is coming out of the facility. And a number of the suggestions within the proposed permit really have been discussed individually with Christian. And I certainly have reason to believe some of them are acceptable, but we'll await his comments over the next couple of weeks, and I think come to a resolution at our next meeting.
Yeah, I think we're closer to making that accomplishment than it may appear.
I agree.
Yes, I would say that the move into the barn is probably a large move for Christian, because I think that will change the whole situation around quite a bit myself, but we shall see.
There's two more people with their hands raised. There's Joe Castelluccio again, and then Christian.
Yeah, I'll just say this quickly, and I don't mean to sound explicitly or implicitly to say that anyone's speaking in bad faith, but I think it's great that everyone's expressing a desire to have Balderdash succeed, but there's an unspoken but at the end of a lot of those, and in some cases it's not unspoken. So I hope everybody wishes them well, but it sounds in some cases like those words are a little hollow, and I echo the statements that have been made already that hopefully people are cooperating in good faith and not simply, trying to make their voice the loudest or the last to be heard.
Christian, you're up.
Yep, I was just going to say that I think the one thing that whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, no matter which laws are drafted or what the rules are, it's just important to know what the rules are, and you can always react. So not knowing what the target is in terms of a decibel level at a certain area, besides 3 feet away from the immediate speaker, it just brings up a lot of emotion. So I would like us to think about how we can have some data to say this is the target at a property line, this is the target there in terms of decibel level, so that we can take appropriate action versus telling us what action to take. And I think, if there's a target, we agree on the target and we hit the target. I think that may be one of the easiest ways to take a lot of the emotion out of the discussion, certainly from our side and from everybody else on the phone. So just one point I wanted to bring up.
I think it's a good point, Christian. I agree.
Hearing no further comment, I'd like to move that we adjourn the public hearing until our next meeting. Is that
I think it's called
appropriate?
continue.
Continue.
Yep.
continue the public hearing until our next meeting.
I'll second that.
And the date of the next public meeting, Danielle?
December 16th.
That has to be announced. Good.
And
Then you
just,
don't have to re-advertise.
What about re-advertising?
You don't need to re-advertise if
No,
you can
right,
continue a
yeah.
meeting to a date certain, and the date is December 16th.
December 16th, yes. That is our next scheduled meeting.
So
And
the
moved
event,
and seconded to
no action taken on the
continue
event.
the meeting.
What, Al? Al, what did you say?
It's been moved and seconded to continue the meeting to the next meeting.
To December 16th.
December 16th.
I apologize. I was just asking, there's been no action then taken on the proposed revision to the farm function permit regarding the barn. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
You all voted?
Even though everybody is on it?
does the delay of that decision hurt you in any way, Christian?
Only to start the renovation on the barn.
Let me understand, Christian, were you planning to work or begin work in the next 2 weeks?
Yes. We are trying to get a, we are waiting for this meeting tonight.
Well, I would like to find a way to accommodate that.
I think if he looks at the draft permit, Neil, and the voice and sense of the commission, or I'm sorry, of the Board of Selectmen, is that they are going to incorporate farm function events into the barn, and that they can't fully approve what will happen in the barn until they see the renovation plans. And we've incorporated into the draft a visit to see what the barn renovation looks like when you say it's done. And then they can say, yeah, that's where you're going to hold the events. And you have to comply with zoning and building and, fire codes for crowds. There are some conditions in it, but subject to those normal conditions, you can anticipate that the Board of Selectmen are in favor of it.
But it sounds like what you just said, Beth, is that obviously we'll comply with all zoning and building codes. That's not a question, but now the select board has to agree with what's being done before they'll approve to allow us to do functions in there.
Well, we don't know what you're building.
Right. So if they don't, what they're saying, Christian, is that we want you to be able to move them inside the barn. We absolutely do. But to actually just say that you can hold them inside a barn that we don't know what looks like or what the size will be, they just want to make sure that once that barn is built, that it is accommodating and that it can legally hold all the people that we're wanting to allow in there. This is basically what
I asked if there were plans that accompanied this petition, this application, and I was told that there were no building plans and that you weren't ready to construct, that you wanted the zoning approval first.
No, I said I didn't have them and that Christian was waiting to apply for the building permit until we have permission, is what I said. So he may have plans. I don't know.
Stop. This is not rocket science. It's a barn. He's renovating a barn. Okay. The barn is there. The size of the barn is there, how high it is, how wide it is, its volume, its, number of floors. It's all well defined. You're just renovating it so it doesn't fall in, so we can use it. And to include that barn as part of the farm function, I don't see any reason why we can't approve that piece of it tonight. The barn can be included. And the rest of this, the noise mitigation and all that stuff, that's a separate issue.
I agree it is a separate issue, and I think we're all in favor of Christian going forward, but our council is advising that the barn has to meet appropriate fire, safety, and health codes. And
yeah, but we're not, and that'll come later when it's done. We'll see it. The fire inspector will go look at it. The building inspector will go look at it, maybe, and they'll say, fine.
Well, that's essentially what this permit says too, Roger, if you look at the draft. I think it's fine for your board to take any vote you want to take and then issue the decision in 2 weeks. But
I think we can issue decision tonight on just allowing that to be part of the farm function. okay? And we can always amend it at any point in time, even if we approve it tonight. That being part, we could amend it at any time, anytime we choose to.
But are you going to continue this hearing?
We can continue the hearing with respect to the noise mitigation restrictions, yes.
What if you take a vote subject to the terms of the decision being ironed out in the, after public discussion and at the next meeting? The terms and conditions of your decision to be completed in the next meeting.
Well,
I don't want to do anything that would slow down Christian's opportunity to renovate his barn. All of us want it renovated. There's no one in the planet Earth that doesn't want that renovated.
I might just also mention, when we initially proposed a farm function permit to be inside the winery as part of it, no one asked on the board, hey, did the building inspector approve it? Did the fire inspector approve it?
Right.
I mean, we can't use it if it's not approved by, legally approved. So I'm just asking to include an area as part of the permit, and then I got to meet certain legal requirements to get it, make sure we can use it.
That's why I see no harm in saying, yes, the barn can be included in this farm function. And like I said, we can amend anything that we approve can always be amended.
all right, well, Roger, what if you suggested that we approve the barn under the terms of the farm function permit, and we'll provide language to that effect in the permit that we are going to draft and complete and approve next week, in 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that, Beth, does that work?
Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say. That is very good. Thank you.
All right, well, that's a motion.
That's exactly what I said. So moved.
So just
Ms. Ma-
approve to incorporate the barn into the farm function permit to allow events to be held inside the barn. And that the hearing is still continued so that the conditions can be approved at the next
Correct.
meeting.
Yeah.
So you
Sure.
are approving the inclusion of the barn tonight, but you're continuing the hearing for the rest of the conditions for 2 weeks.
You may watch the language on that. I'm a stickler on language sometimes. When you say farm functions to be included inside the barn, well, there may be more people than the barn can hold, and part of that function may be outside, which is fine by me. But I think you need to be careful about the language that you assign to this situation.
That the farm function includes the barn is all you need to say.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Because
Well-
right now, it doesn't include it. And the only reason it doesn't include it is because Christian happened to not include it originally
All right, well, there's a motion on the floor.
by mistake.
There's a motion on the floor to do just that. So it needs a second and then approval.
Second.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right.
One piece of discussion. If we vote to approve this, Christian, right now, will that allow you to continue to do what you want to do?
I'm making a phone call tomorrow to my architect to get the permit started. Yes.
All right.
Okay. End of discussion.
We need a third aye
We need
here.
all those in favor.
Manzolini, aye.
Pilson, aye.
Hanson, aye.
All right, well, we accomplished something tonight.
Go forth, an architect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we move on to the town manager, town administrator's report.
Sure.
I'm just asking Alan, he's a chair.
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions I have. I'm trying to think, there was some kind of a thing on my mail about the community building workshop series. This is probably just the Board of Selectmen and Danielle. I just wonder what that was all about.
So that's number one on my town administrator report.
Okay, then
And
I'll give in to Danielle. Okay.
so the hazard mitigation and municipal vulnerability program, we just started that so that we could update our plans. As part of that process, the state requires us to hold meetings and informational sessions with certain individuals in order to give feedback of what they feel the issues are in our communities. And so we have a stakeholders list that was worked on with the committee and the Weston and Sampson. Those individuals have been invited to participate in the workshop, and they will be held on December 15th, 16th, and 17th. And those are invitation only. And again, they are with the stakeholders, and they have some about the infrastructure, about community resilience, and different groups of people who have major, I'm trying to think of the word that I want right now. It's, yep, I can't think of the word I want to use right now. So
Concerns.
it is concerns, but not the word I wanted, but yes. So those are coming up on the 15th, 16th, and 17th. So that is what is in your inbox. All three are different. You can participate in all of them or one of them. It is up to you.
Okay.
The second item on my list is that the auction for the town parcels has been scheduled for January 13th. We're waiting on language from the tax title attorney so that we can officially post it in the places we need to post that. But it will be January 13th at the town hall.
Now, I want to ask you, what does this encompass? Does this encompass all the properties in town that are up for auction, all of them?
Well, all of them except for the one that we didn't vote to use, which is what is currently being worked on with Conservation Commission and Beth for a conservation restriction. It doesn't include that one because we didn't move that
Zero
forward.
Shore Road.
Right.
And we've been working on that with Beth and a couple other people. And we're probably going to come, and I think Danielle knows what we're doing, but we're going to be coming to Danielle and the board in the not too distant future with a recommendation on how we go about dealing with that property. We had about 6 options, but we narrowed it down to 1 this morning. And we got a little homework to do, but basically what we're saying, if you guys approve it, is what we'd like you to have to do is authorizing by Article 3 of the town meeting held on, I'm sorry, that's not the right page, but we're asking the Board of Selectmen to turn it over to the Concom, but in the deed, recorded deed, we basically imposed Article 97 on that property, so that will protect it. And that's probably the simplest way we can deal with it. And
It would be a vote that we think a vote to dedicate the property to Article 97, right, Ron?
right.
That's
And
what I was educated about that this afternoon or this morning.
yeah,
It's a new one to me. But I understand the concept and I've looked at the cases. So we were recommending a vote at next town meeting to make that transfer, right, Ron?
Yeah, the Article 97 position would require, we think, to be safe, go to town meeting with that. Otherwise,
To dedicate the land.
Yeah. Otherwise, the disposition, you guys have already been given that through town meeting, but Article 97 wasn't addressed at town meeting last summer. So that's the way we think we ought to go. We got some issues. We've already
Since it's permanent, right? It should really be a clear dedication.
Yeah, we've drafted an article for the warrant already, and it's being passed around. I think you may already have it, Beth.
I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
You're too fast for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does this have coordination to do with our butter who has issues also? So I'm gonna work those issues with Peter Miller because he's gonna have to make some changes in the way he works too. Because he's in a butter and he's been maintaining a small portion of that property, so we'll have to deal with that. But other than that, that was the simplest thing we could do. the most cost effective, and we think it'll work. As long as we get the Article 97 protection on it through the deed.
Okay, I got a question on another parcel, the more substantial parcel, the one on Swamp Road. Is that included? The former Kerwood property?
Yes.
Is there like a minimum opening bid on that piece of property? Or all of these pieces of properties?
No minimum bid, no.
How do we know that we're gonna get a bid substantial enough to cover lost taxes?
So we don't right away, but the option that we're doing under the auction is that we can turn down the bid if we don't feel it's high enough bid.
Okay, so
That's the way the tax title attorney told us we could do it, because
okay,
what happens is if we do a minimum bid and we don't even get the minimum bid, we'd have to redo the whole process. So
okay, well, that's fine. So we start with the bidding, however the bidding goes, and we can refuse the end bid. We should think we should discuss and have a number that we would refuse
okay, we can have that conversation.
ahead of time.
Okay.
Okay, all right. And is there any other substantial properties other than that one? When I say substantial, that's the only piece of property with a house on it that I know of.
Well, 8 Willow does not have a house on it anymore, but 8 Willow is big enough. It did have a house at one point. So
Okay, so that
is a potential
okay.
larger lot that could get a significant amount.
Okay. Okay. I think we should target a few of those more quote unquote valuable properties and figure out if there's a bid that we would not accept.
Okay, we can have that conversation with Paul and the tax title attorney.
Yeah, and
Should we also request some opinion from a local realtor?
We could do that.
What was the date? January 13th?
Yes.
13th. But you didn't say at what time.
No, I didn't have that confirmed yet.
Okay. Is there on that property on Swamp Road, is there like going to be an opportunity for potential bidders to like view that property?
No.
Okay, so it's a sight unseen type.
They can drive by and see it, but it's not going to be any kind of walkthrough or anything like that.
Can they drive in and walk around it? I mean, outside?
I mean, I don't see why not. Anybody can drive into the parking lot.
Okay.
I mean, the driveway, sorry.
Yeah. No, I got you. Okay, thank you.
My next topic is green burials. We did have a request about the green burials again, and I went back to all the old minutes and I spoke with Steve Parsons because I couldn't find anything. And from what I can tell is the board never actually voted to approve green burials. Steve had said that there had been talk back in 2015, which is when I had found minutes from it, that there would definitely be a cost for extra maintenance and his time in doing the green burials. He said that the talks never continued, but if you do want to have those discussions again, then he'd be happy to have that with you. I did reach out to Great Barrington to see what they have, and I have a call with them at the end of the week to see what their policies are.
Okay. I would
Do you
just
want to
point
put
out,
that
yeah, we have had a request from a resident for a green burial. It was an informal request. It wasn't directed to the board. It was directed to me. I was perhaps mistaken, but I thought we had approved green burials at our conversation 4 or 5 years ago. Danielle says we did not. I would like us to go forward and allow green burials. I think it is something that is become part of our culture. I think there are members of our town that, from a religious point of view, want a green burial. And I think we should review it, give it consideration, and ultimately approve green burials at our town cemetery.
The only question I ever had about green burials was Great Barrington, I believe, is on a full septic, not a septic system, but a full sewer system. And Richmond is on a drilled well situation. I had always wondered what the ramifications were of green burials in regards to drilled wells. I don't know if there's any rules along with that or not. I'm certainly in favor of green burials, but I would like to know more about how that affects a town that uses this water supply from the ground.
All right.
And
Fair question.
I'd also like to see if there's any state regulations associated with green burials. I can't imagine that a municipality can just prove it on their own. I would think that the state must have their fingers in that somehow.
All right, well, let's look into it.
I would like to find that out. And I would also like to invite Steve to come and talk to us about these quote unquote increased costs as a result of a green burial.
Yeah, I don't know what they are.
I don't know, but from what I could tell in the little bit that I found on it is that you do have to have a section of the cemetery designated for green burials. You can't incorporate them within the other burials.
Okay.
So you do have to have a separate section for that.
All right, I've got a small file on it. I'll share that with you, Danielle, and you can send it to the other board members.
Okay, and I'm having a conversation with Sean from Great Barrington at the end of the week, so he can fill me in on some of the stuff in the cemetery as well. So I should have more information for the next meeting. Do you want me to put it on for the 16th?
I would ask, yes.
Sure, why not? We can discuss it.
Okay. Regarding the wood processing complaint on Sleepy Hollow Road, you each got a copy of Beth's determination on what she felt that was. But where we need to go from here is I think that we need to forward the information and actually ask the Zoning Board of Appeals to make a formal determination on that. So I would like the board's approval to do that.
Yeah, I would like to ask the board members to go by the facility. It is huge. There are multiple piles of very large pieces of lumber along Sleepy Hollow. And Danielle, I see, maybe it was Elizabeth, I'm not sure, but moving the pile back 5 feet from the road is not a solution in my view.
No, but if depending on how long it'll take the Zoning Board of Appeals to hold that, at least if they move it out of the way, it's less of a hazard for our highway department.
Danielle, let me ask, have you seen these piles? Have you driven by?
I have, they're massive.
Yeah,
I have.
they really are. So I think, and I understand Beth's legal confidential memorandum. Beth, is that something we can discuss in public session because it's confidential according to your?
I always put confidential on my legal memorandums to your board. And
Well, can
you
we
can make
discuss-
anything public you want to make public.
Well, it's a little confusing in that it's not clear to me whether the issue is simply whether a majority of the wood on the property is from third parties, or whether it is allowed to have the wood processing in the farm, under the farm, whatever it is, they're in the zoning, RAC zoning.
I think it is more questionable if you grow all the wood on your own land and then process all the wood on your own land. But my understanding is that's not what's happening here. My understanding is that he buys wood to chip and process. But I said that's a factual question that only a board can find evidence and determine.
All right, Roger, Alan, if you guys haven't gone by, take a look at the property before our next meeting.
Yeah, I have seen it, and you know, I think you must be careful with the Massachusetts general law on that, because it's pretty gray about what you can do and not do with firewood. My interpretation, I'm no lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but it seems to me you can actually import wood to process and sell. In fact, many operations do that. They buy wood by the truckload, then they process it, split it, and sell it as firewood. You have to be careful where that goes. I'm not sure myself, but that's only my 2 cents worth.
All right, well,
That's exactly what they did at the former Oracy Datson's on West Housatonic Street in Pittsfield. That was a wood processing plant for about 10 years after Oracy stopped selling cars there. And it was they didn't have any special permit or anything like that. It was just a by right activity.
That sounds different though, because there was something else there, a car or something, right? And then they maybe changed the use a little bit. That may have been a pre-existing non-conforming business use.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
what he's arguing is I got a farm, and as part of my farm, I'm allowed to buy firewood, chip it, and sell it.
mm-hmm.
And that I question. I just question whether, and I'm not the determiner. I'm not the determiner of fact. It's a factual question. Is he buying wood and is he processing wood and selling it? And if so, is that a farm function or a business function? And I cited a case in there where it says that, what was the case? Wood processing is not a farm, a wood plant. A sawmill is not a farm function. It's different. So I think it's up to your board to make that your zoning board of appeals to make that determination.
all right, do we have a residential complaint on this, or are we just acting on our own here? Is this?
No, we have a residential complaint on it.
We have a complaint.
And we're responding to that. We're just trying to do fact determination. And,
I think the fact determination Beth is saying is for the zoning board.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I guess the question I have is this individual who complained, they went to the building inspector and said, you should enforce the zoning law and stop this non-farm use. Did someone do that? And then
they came to the board of selectmen.
They came to us and says, what up? And we said, we don't know. Let's find out. And we're finding out.
Okay. So I think they need to go to the building
at.
inspector and see if the building inspector will enforce the zoning bylaw, and presumably
he won't. He won't.
But he still needs to either make that decision. They need to file that request to get to the zoning board of appeals, right? Don't they have to file that request with the building inspector? He has to act or fail to act.
Correct.
And then they can say, I'm appealing his decision.
So I had
ZBA.
that conversation with Paul Green, and he is going to make a no determination,
Denial letter.
take no action.
Yeah.
A no
You can
action
just send an
letter.
email and say, I'm not,
and then
I
once
don't-
he has a
I'm
no action letter, then the complainants can do that.
Yeah, they can appeal to the ZBA. And I agree with you guys. It's a tough question. If he is just using his own wood on his own farm, I don't know.
Holly wants to speak.
Sorry?
Holly has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've seen him bring in truckloads of large logs, and those are the logs that are right now alongside the road. Some of them. I was there passing by one day when a huge truck with great big clamps and whatnot brought in wood. He's bringing in wood from elsewhere. That's not all off his property. In fact, most of it is not from his property.
Well, that's what the facts we're uncovering are.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to determine.
Right. He's running a business that's not That's
Yeah, he's
not,
not burning all that wood.
he's not burning it or anything. He's not using it for his own purposes either. This is a business he's got.
Well, apparently he can run a business if it's his own wood, and he can, there's some legal precedent that he can run the business as long as a majority of the wood is his own wood. And
It's
I'm a
not.
little confused about that, but
Yeah.
I think we should find a way to have this, get this before the zoning board that can conduct a public hearing and take testimony.
Mhm.
Let me step in with chapter 120. I know everybody probably already knows this, but I want to read this to you just to be sure. My interpretations may be too gray. I'm going to quote from chapter 119A, 140A, whatever that thing that I have, the library of the zoning, the bylaws of the town or the state. And it says, any forestry or lumbering operations performed by a farmer who is hereby defined as engaged in agricultural farming is herein defined, or on a farm or on an incident to or in conjunction with such farming operation, including appropriating for market, delivery to storage into market, or to carry for transportation to market. That's pretty gray. I mean, if we're going to
When
go
you read it, Alan, it is pretty gray, that's for sure.
Oh, really? I mean, it would seem it could do that. You know? At least I interpret as that. I mean, I'm not a lawyer.
Well, we do have a memorandum from our town attorney.
Yeah. Al, do you have that section that you're reading? Chapter 122?
It's chapter 128.1A.
Yeah, but Beth is saying in 122, apparently in the state law, you have to read all the paragraphs.
No, but this is definitions of farming and agriculture. That's the part I'm looking at.
One of the most confusing things in the law in Massachusetts is the definition of farm and agriculture.
That's
I have
what
to
I'm
say.
pretty gray.
But that's the issue. You've got the issue, and the zoning board's going to have to make a determination about that issue. Is this a farmer engaged in farming or not? That really is the issue. And I'm sorry I can't be more clear and more bright line and, answer the question better.
No, I know. I
think at least we know the question.
I know it looks like hell in plain English. There's no doubt about that. But I want to be careful we don't set precedents that step on other people's toes because of this one individual.
Well,
I think we have the plan of action.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. We have had a request from the building inspector. He's received 3 different requests from residents who were looking to, they want to have auxiliary dwelling units, which are not allowed in our bylaws. So he has asked to see if the select board, zoning board, planning board would like to have a meeting to discuss potentially allowing auxiliary dwelling units. And if this is something you would like, I can look around and ask other towns what they're doing.
That's a planning board question.
Okay.
Well, if you're asking us if we should ask the planning board to look into it, I think the answer to that is yes.
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 And then last thing that I have is that I would like to be able to look into creating a sick bank policy. We don't have one here, but we did just recently run into a situation where Phyllis was out for a significant amount of time due to injuries. She ended up using all of her time. But then what happened was her husband ended up having to have surgery and she needed to take time off to bring him to surgery. So what I did was donated 2 of my sick days so that she could still be paid for the time that she had to be out. So what I would like to do is create an actual policy on that though, so that we have something that says how many days you can donate, when you could do them, how they can be used, and that kind of thing. Then we can incorporate it into the personnel policy after.
That's a good,
It's a nice idea.
that's a good thing to do. I would encourage you to do that, Danielle, to go maybe steal a policy from another town and or a business. Look at the healthcare system. They have policies where employees can bank time but they can donate it to fellow employees like you did.
Okay.
Bless you.
Like you did without a policy. Thank you.
I did.
But I think it's, yeah, look into a policy and we'll consider it.
That was very generous of you, Danielle.
Oh, thank you. Nice thing to do. So that's all I have. I don't have any other.
She can have all of my sick time too, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, are there any selectmen's minutes to be aired?
Not for me.
Roger?
I had one, but I can't remember what it was. So no.
All right, hearing no more matters, I would move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Well, thank you to those residents who are still with us for joining us. Thank you, Holly. And
thanks, everyone, and be safe.
Yeah. Stay safe.
And thank you, Clarence. Next time, don't be so noisy.
Yeah, Clarence always he records our meetings, and all right. Well, good night, everyone.
Yep.
Good night.
Thank you. Good
Night.
night.